Okay, YouTube. So, this is Acid Roots, and I've got the Dogg Pound's debut album, Dog Food, to review for you. Now, the first thing to know about this album is I know folks will say out there two of the seminal, I think that's the right word, seminal albums that came out in the 90s were Doggystyle and The Chronic. Now, the problem with that was those albums were so good that it kind of put a lot of rappers out there to shame. Just because if we're not talking like a 5-star rap album, it was as if, no one really cared. So rap was kind of in its early stages a bit, but there were further records off of Death Row that kind of were trying to get attention, and this is pretty much the one that was trying to do it after Doggystyle. Now, the whole Death Row story is you basically got an album a year for them, and this was the one for 1995. Now, if you're wondering what happened in 1994, Snoop Dogg was going through a murder trial, and he released an album called Murder Was the Case. Now, this is a very tricky album to try to find, just because Spotify does not have it. I cannot get it from the library, and it's kind of dodgy to find across the internet. So really, I want this album pretty bad just because it's got some new Snoop Dogg stuff on there. It's got a Dr. Dre song, and there's some good moments. But believe me, I would have reviewed it by now had I had a copy of it. And so this was the 1995 version, which people can basically say is the Chronic Part 3, if you want to call it that. And it features two rappers by the name of Daz Dillinger and Corrupt with a K. So that lets you know something. Both of these guys, Daz has more of a rapid type delivery, while Corrupt kind of has more of a soft-spoken but still pretty jagged-esque way of talking. And both these guys, the only thing I'm going to say to people who are just looking for like the principal characters of rap, the approach to it is very pedestrian. So it's not Snoop Dogg. It's not as if you're going to find yourself a new Snoop Doggy Dogg, or you're going to find yourself a new Tupac. You have to like rap in order to really begin to appreciate this record. And, I've tried in the past to review this. I was going to review it last year, but I figured no one was really going to read this or watch this review, so I passed on it. But now I look back on it, and this was actually a pretty good moment to do. So big thing is there is not a song the size of Gin and Juice, and there is also not a song the size of California Love or something like that. This is really to the idea, it's California for one thing, but it's also got that G-Funk style, and it is, beyond that, it is kind of hardcore rap. So, but there are two singles off this project, which are Let's Play House and New York, New York. Now, East Coast, West Coast was kind of being, that was one of the greater feuds in rap music, was that, and they took part in it. And they also took part in throwing some subliminals at Bone Thugs and Harmony and that sort of stuff, so that lets you know. But, so I'm going to talk about New York, New York is good, but it doesn't stand out to me as much as Let's Play House does. Nate Dogg is on Let's Play House, but it feels kind of like New York, New York should have been the second single. And really, I think what would have helped this album the most is getting like a Snoop Dogg verse on there, because if you listen to Doggystyle, these guys were on the song Ain't No Fun If the Homies Can't Have None. And so that kind of introduced you to them, let you know that they were going to be the ones that were next. They were also on The Chronic. But, Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg are kind of on here sparingly. Especially Dr. Dre. He only shows up in just a couple of intros. He talks for a little bit and then fades into the background. Snoop Dogg raps on here, but he does not rap on the singles. So, you know, that kind of leads, looking for his verses. He does talk on here. He'll do like a hook or something like that, or some, what's the word? Ad-libs, that sort of stuff, but he really does not rap on here a ton. So you do get him a couple of times. One specifically is the song Smooth, which is one of the best songs on here. Has a real G-funk feel to it. And then another one is Some Bomb Ass Pussy. That right there is one of the best songs. I think it's better than Bitches Ain't Shit from The Chronic. This has an overall better feel. The thing about this album is it has some real strong outings, but the whole thing is that it delivers in terms of being a pretty decent album, but it does not in terms of being memorable due to having charting radio songs. So that's the only reason. It did go double platinum, but I feel like most people will think it's forgettable, which it isn't. You know, you just have to look deeper. Snoop is here, Nate Dogg is here, Daz and Corrupt are pretty solid West Coast rappers. So I'm going to tell you the 7 songs that I enjoyed, and these are the ones that you need to hear. So they are Dogg Pound Gangstas, Respect, New York, New York, Smooth, Ridin', Slippin', Slidin', Let's Play House, Some Bomb Ass Pussy, and the song I was on the fence about was I Don't Like to Dream About Getting Paid. Now, some of these sound like something Tupac would do. I mean, this really sounds like California music out of 1995, 1994, and 1996. So it's very, I mean, it gives you that feel almost immediately. If I had another record I would describe that to, it would probably be the Still I Rise album by Tupac and Outlawz. So it's just like that. It's just like All Eyes on Me. It's kind of like Me Against the World, and it's definitely like Doggystyle. So, a few of the records, yeah, like Some Bomb Ass Pussy is one of the best cuts on here. I Don't Like to Dream About Getting Paid sounds like a Tupac song. Let's Play House has a really good hook, and that just feels like the most commercial, the most radio-ready song. Dogg Pound Gangstas has a good beat on there, so those are some good moments. But yeah, I'm going to give this album, because I liked basically 8 out of 15. I'm just going to give this record a 6 out of 10. You know, the only other weakness to this album would be is just that it needed a little bit more of a commercial approach to it. I feel like they were kind of surprised that gangsta rap was getting as big as it was, and you know, they may not have been ready to reach the international success that Snoop Dogg did. Other than that, it's a good album. I mean, for what it has, it's stood the test of time. You know, people talk about the 20th anniversary of Doggystyle, but this was a 20th anniversary that needs to be revisited. It basically is 21 now. It came out Halloween of 95, but yeah, so the social score, I will give like a 4 out of 10, just because the singles, I told you about that. The future, Dogg Pound is kind of sparse. They have dropped more records, but I just don't know how it feels compared to this one. You know, it definitely does, it lacks the G-funk style that it had on this one, I think. But, you know, these guys have done solo careers as well. So, can this record be top? Probably just a notch or two, but this is still, I mean, you can't do too much worse than to get something like this. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like that's a bad thing to say, but you can do a lot worse than getting this record. I'll say that.